It isn't enough to simply be aware, because awareness itself isn't enough. Your awareness is that subtlety underlying your entire experience. It's what you know deep down. It's what your inner voice guides you to do. It's what your energy has the potentiality to become. And it's where your observation can take you when you live in the world of objective, integrated truths. However, you are not your awareness if you're just observing it as an aspect of your field. Maybe it's mental awareness. Maybe it's physical awareness that isn't fully grounded into your emotional experience. Maybe it's awareness that you externalize, but you don't necessarily apply to yourself. So the key is not holding on to this awareness as a distant expression of you or a suggestion of what you might become if you become a match to that awareness. The goal is to actually become it. It's to see no difference or distinction between yourself and the awareness within your field, which means you correspond to the nature of your awareness at the level of the mind, body, heart, and spirit. It means you emotionally are a match to all of your deeper values, beliefs, and you see no need to separate the conscious and the subconscious mind, which is the most important precept to conscious living. Consciousness is the art of integrating your awareness in order to become more aware of every single aspect of your experience, inside and out. The more conscious you become, the more aware you become of why things are the way that you are and why you feel in the way that you do. Consciousness is not only about the subjective experience happening inside of you, it's also about seeing every distinct aspect of reality as being on part of a continuum. And you experience that continuum as a reflection of your own inner world when you start to pinpoint that every single experience that is collapsing in your field is in some way making you aware of certain aspects equally within your inner and your outer experience. The state of analyzing your consciousness is the state of becoming aware that what you're experiencing internally is in some way reflected outside of you. And likewise, understanding that if you're holding certain incongruencies or splits between your inner and outer world, that is going to be emphasized as conflict in some shape or form. The more that you try to regress from the state of actually assuming responsibility for the conscious experience and every single aspect of your reality, the more you're going to be pained by the different splits and opposition that you experience outside of you. Hence, whenever people disagree with you, you end up being manipulated, or you experience certain outcomes that are not exactly what you would hope to experience, the more you end up polarizing both internally and externally. And what that could feel like is you end up creating an even more oppositional response against yourself or against any aspect of your reality which appears to be against you. The more that you hold this negative resistance against anything happening internally or externally, the more you end up experiencing a split in this aspect of your conscious awareness. You end up feeling fragmented from the state of being the experiencer of reality, in addition to actually being the experience. When you feel anything that you feel is unwarranted or is unjust, then what you're doing is you're excluding yourself from the equation of conscious experience. You're choosing not only to deny the idea that everything happening in reality is happening intentionally and due to the collapsing of certain possibilities in the conscious experience at large, but you're also choosing to revoke your responsibility as a part of that conscious experience, which means you're depriving yourself of free will if you don't believe that you're actively playing a role in how your life unfolds, and you're likewise keeping yourself from creating changes to optimize this experience for you. Anytime you feel intensely triggered by what's happening in the outer plane of experience, you're creating a deeper fragment because you're choosing not to recognize that the thing that's triggering you is in some way revealing an internal aspect that must be healed. And so one of the easiest and most difficult ways to integrate these different splits or fragments in your psyche and in your reality is by analyzing the triggers. What makes you frustrated? What makes you intensely sad or feel any kind of polarizing emotions which you feel are outside of your control? Whenever you're dealing with a trigger, the nature of that trigger is to blow up a certain aspect of your internal organism in order for you to evaluate the way that it's making you feel. and any unresolved feelings will keep repeating themselves through different kinds of outer experiences to help you recognize what you are storing away from yourself subconsciously. A trigger is anything that creates a violent reaction because you're not used to seeing that and integrating that particular element in your life. A trigger is also something that tends to happen frequently as part of this feedback loop of your consciousness, because when you recognize that trigger and you experience a more violent reaction against it, you end up locking in the importance of that trigger. What most of us don't realize is that triggers are actually gifts that orient us with exactly what we need to integrate in order to come into a more neutral state of alignment and observation. If we were to view every single trigger as an important stimulus that's actually prompting us to look beyond the nature of the conscious mind's reactivity and to move into the state of trying to reconcile the difference between us and the physical experience we're having, we would start to recognize that triggers are really leading us back into our own souls. And the thing, the object, the place, or the circumstance that is seemingly creating the trigger outside of us is actually revealing the part of us that needs to be healed, that needs to be understood, and that needs to learn to respond more consciously rather than being triggered, which reveals where emotional maturity is warranted most. In other words, in order for us to become the bridge of consciousness that fills the gap between the subconscious and the conscious mind, we need to understand the difference between what we are holding subconsciously and what we're feeling or responding to on the conscious mind's level. The conscious mind is prone to react to reality in a way that is largely unconscious, because the conscious mind tends to create a detached emotional response. What you're used to being triggered by, for example, is something the conscious mind reacts to as a threat. It's something that you think needs to be reacted to with negativity, with polarization. For example, if something seemingly bad happens to you, you feel you need to deny that particular thing, push away from it, react in a violent way in order to prove to yourself or to other people that you don't like the thing that is happening on the external front. Now, if you allow yourself to respond to reality like this screen that is projected from an external place rather than from an internal place of awareness, then what you're going to be feeling is like you're this avatar in an unconscious universe that's experiencing constant threats and constant conflicts that keep you away from yourself. You're going to feel like there's always going to be some threat or controlled opposition outside of you that's keeping you inhibited, that's keeping your consciousness trapped. Because what it's going to feel like is like you always need to live in survival mode and engage yourself in different defensive ways to keep your ego in a reactive mode that seemingly keeps you safe. From this standpoint, you might feel that if you lower your defenses, you're going to be vulnerable, susceptible to risks. You might feel a fear of failure or fear of an unknown that you think will cause you to actually be deprived of your free will or your true identity. Now, this is rooted purely in the illusion that if you lose control of your ego, you're going to lose control of your reality. But ironically, the opposite is true. When you fear losing control at the level of the egoic mind, what you're actually fearing is the integration of those inner aspects that are keeping you polarized, that are keeping you in this constantly anxious state of needing to react to external triggers because you think that past threats are going to repeat themselves. For example, if you've ever been hurt or felt your ego bruised in the past, you're going to want to stay apprehensive because you think that reality is going to be a dangerous environment to exist in if you choose to diminish those coping mechanisms. You might feel that if you stop playing the role of a victim, or you stop keeping your guard up at all times, that you're going to be exposed to the same risks that made you feel an unwanted emotion in the first place. However, what the ego doesn't realize when adopting this particular strategy is that there are different ways to respond consciously to reality other than by just creating more defensive mechanisms. More egoic walls and coping mechanisms don't need to be implemented to learn how to live and be consciously. Likewise, we don't need to keep creating new alter egos or false selves in order to protect ourselves from unwanted responses from other people in order to experience our truth. We also don't need to go into hiding mode and suppress our emotions or seclude our true identity if we've been hurt by other people for being our true self. And yet, this is the misconception that the ego wants us to believe. It wants us to think that if we don't comply with all of the fearful tactics that it's trying to impose to keep us safe, we're going to be hurt again. However, there is a deeper way to engage in this game of the polarizing dance of emotions that plays out in our reality. And that way is through learning to consciously respond by choosing to go from a reactive state to being constantly aware of ourselves to the extent that we are choosing the response in real time rather than allowing our subconscious or shadow aspect to play the role of the responder for us. Here's a little how this could play out in any given moment. When you're dealing with any unwanted, triggering situation, or you feel a polarizing emotion come up to the surface, what you are going to be inclined to do is to move into the state of being the energy surrounding that internal trigger. You're going to move into some form of a traumatic response, leading you to either contract energetically, move into a state of hiding, try to flee from the external trigger, and to run away from the need to even size up the situation and to see the deeper lesson being illuminated. If you feel like the trigger is causing you to freeze or to move into a kind of a response that paralyzes you through sensations that you don't want to be experiencing, the goal is to one-up the ego's reflexive mechanism of shutting you down and keeping you paralyzed by those uncomfortable emotions, and to assume responsibility for the experience you're having. Because as soon as you move yourself into the state of actually embodying your own awareness, all of a sudden, you find a way to gain an upper hand over the ego. Rather than trying to control the ego into doing something that it's not naturally feeling, you're simply becoming the observer. And by becoming awareness, you're able to understand what it is that's actually happening on a multi-layered level of the experience. You're able to see a part of you is instinctively reacting, but you're also able to understand why it is reacting in that particular way. You might start to pinpoint that those emotions you're currently feeling in a certain triggering situation are really reflecting past ways of thinking and being. Maybe it's bringing you into an old circumstance in which you felt triggered by someone or something else. Maybe what's coming up is a certain paralyzing response that you felt when you weren't fully acknowledged. And so instead of holding yourself and creating a safe space internally for you to feel and process the emotions in the now moment, you might choose to circumvent the need to accommodate your authenticity altogether, and choose to circumvent self-love as the ultimate strategy for integration. When you start to accommodate this energy of inner peace by just letting yourself be and observing everything that's happening on the internal plane, you're also able to understand how what's happening outside of you is allowing you to magnify the deeper unhealed aspects of yourself. Imagine zooming into all of the aspects that are coming up for exploration and simply analyzing them, like a therapist, or like a guardian, or a parental figure that's moving into your field of experience just to understand why it is that you are currently showing up in the way that you are. In this way, you can lovingly hold space for all the different aspects of emotions, physical symptoms, different feelings, beliefs, ideas, and dynamics playing out, where you can even see a bit of yourself in the other people that are currently reflecting in your physical experience. Imagine looking at the entirety of what you're currently dealing with, like different pieces on a game board of your life. Every character or individual is playing a certain role in revealing who you are, through what you're attracting, through what you're allowing into your reality, through how they are treating you as an extension and expression of how you are treating yourself. Maybe you need to validate yourself instead of seeking validation from certain people. Perhaps you need to let go of certain attachments that are teaching you you are not sustaining a healthy relationship with yourself by maintaining those toxic attachments in your life. Maybe what's triggering you is really teaching you to reevaluate what you're worth and what you're deserving of on a deeper level. Or perhaps what is being illuminated by somebody else or by something that is unfolding in your life is what needs to be integrated by you for your deepest learning and evolution in life. Think about if you were to depolarize and assume that a certain truth is being elicited in this deeply uncomfortable situation you are going through, what that truth would be. It's going to most likely be something that you don't want to hear, and this is why you subconsciously panic and move into a mode of preventing yourself from receiving the bullets to your ego in order to avoid transmuting the energy, which is creating the trigger in the moment. If you were to instead look for an outlet to explore why this energy feels stagnant or feels restricting, you are going to find an opportunity for expansion. And this is where the process of conscious living really becomes a journey of expanding awareness and finding new ways to enable flow by understanding where we're currently limiting that flow state in our lives. Ultimately, if you are not experiencing flow in the present moment, some aspects of you are preventing that flow state. And if you're not experiencing flow through the dynamics in your life, through the situations you engage in, the different circumstances that you're interacting with, then you are depriving yourself of flow, and actually, what's being mirrored externally is the lack of flow you are providing yourself. If you assume responsibility for what you're currently going through and seeing that any lack of flow is now pointing to an opportunity you must give yourself to restore the flow and coherence in your field, then you will see how you are the ultimate trigger, and how any kind of reactivity is pointing to where you need to respond differently, to choose a higher and more coherent energetic pathway in life. What prevents the deepest and most cathartic of all triggers is the ultimate realization that what you want to blame everybody else for creating, or what you even want to point toward the universe for preventing as an opportunity that you need most, comes down to your reluctance to create change. And the ego might have a multitude of different pacifying strategies to keep you from seeing its obvious blind spots, to keep you from integrating, to prevent you from healing, to circumvent you from the deepest awareness of who you are, because ultimately that is awareness you already hold. You're already aware of where you're lying to yourself. You already know if you're not allowing yourself to choose the highest path of personal mastery. So the question is, why? Why wouldn't you allow yourself to choose to embrace your truth, your authenticity, the individualism of your soul's deepest calling, to understand how you can create all of these changes you are seeking, to stop being reactive to that which you are not, and instead see how all of those triggering situations are pointing to where you need to allow yourself to be the real you. Life can be very triggering because there's always room for self-improvement, and there's always more room for accepting even those different situations and people that aren't able to align with this same frequency of clarity and truth. And yet we must persist. We must build this strength in our spiritual field to maintain the integrity between the ego and the soul, so that we can see there's always room for more coherence to be created, and to see that neutrality is the ultimate response in a polarizing world that always challenges us on our ability to stay true to ourselves and to stay in a specific state of always being adaptable and friendly to the challenges of life, even when they attempt to claim our sovereignty and authority over ourselves.